What's up, everybody? We're back on the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Jason just put me on the spot saying I had to do the open, and I'm thinking the introduction for our guest today, but I'm doing the open. So I want to welcome everyone back. The number one show in the universe, the number one real estate show in the universe. If you guys, we have a really good guest coming on, someone who is very close to me. I'm very excited. We'll talk all things real estate, wake surfing, resolving the world's problems around a campfire. So I'm excited for that. But as it goes, now I know why Jay fucking dumped this off on me because I'm so bad at this shit. But either way,
if you're watching on video, man, we're just smirking. We're just smirking away right here, trying to get you to do your thing.
Yeah, but it's not going good.
In the spot. I figured Nick's one of your good friends. You know.
I thought you wanted me to do the. Yeah. I thought you wanted me to do the introduction.
The intro open, it's same thing.
Oh, all right. Well, either way, all right, screw it. Let me continue on. I want to introduce a very close friend of mine, Nick Paul. He is taller than all of us. His wife is absolutely awesome, Serena, who is also Miss New Mexico. But Nick and I, we've bonded over the past few years. We were both a part of a mastermind group. I walked in. It was during COVID. I didn't have a mask on. Everybody else has masks on. He walks up to me. He's like, "Hey, you're Ian." I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?" And he's like, "I like that you're not wearing a mask." I'm like, "Yeah, I like you too." Turns out later that night, we're ripping beers around the fire ring, and we've gotten really close. So let's just bring Nick in.
Nick, hey man, how are you?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Good. Figured we'd spice this up a little bit on the front end and get all out.
And I shit the bed.
Ian's the only one that has an intern, a real studio, and everything else, and he still doesn't have his crap out.
That's what I was just about to say. Get the intern on it, man. Hope get you some good opening lines for these things.
Exactly. But anyways, Nick, welcome. Really appreciate you spending some time with us on the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Why don't we just start with a quick intro? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And give it a quick rundown. So Nick Paul, I live in southern New Mexico, Alamogordo, New Mexico, to be specific. Grew up here. The minute that I graduated high school, I said, I got to get the hell out of here. I got to get near some water. So I went to college out in Los Angeles, California area, lived out there for about 10 years and realized, through various different job that I was working and things like that California was all right, but it wasn't where I was meant to be at the end of the day. So ended up leaving California, and that was kind of where I got my kick or start, you could say, in investing in real estate. When I got out of college, I'd always had a passion for real estate. A good buddy of mine that I grew up with, his grandpa lived on the beach in the Central Coast of California and got his start and made his money in real estate through owning Denny's restaurants. And so that always piqued my interest. Guy that grew up actually here in Alamogordo, came from nothing, literally just was crushing it. And so I was like, hey man, that's interesting. So kind of kept in touch with him as a mentor, got into brokerage for hospitality assets out of college. So I was helping people buy and sell hotels, excuse me, in the western part of the US, and then ran the course of that job through the ups and downs of the mid and late 2000s, and decided that I was tired of depending on my pay being tied to somebody else's decisions. So started investing in real estate myself, and then did the track like I think most people, single family, multifamily, have ended up in self-storage. But real estate as a whole is kind of what my passion is. So not necessarily tied to one specific asset class. Commercial, is where I think it's at. And so that's where we'll probably focus from here going forward.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know if many people know, but hotels is one of the only real estate asset classes that is taxed as active income. You do not get passive income on any of that income that comes through the front door. They get depreciation, but they don't get all their rental money or their nightly stays as active income. I thought that was pretty interesting. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you start really breaking that down, it's some of the different asset classes that kind of afford you that ability to shelter that income lends itself to be more favorable than others, like the hospitality market for sure.
Yeah, dude, in the hospitality market, it's got to be miserable, right? You were peddling hotels in California or the whole Western United States.
Yeah, pretty much the Western US. So, from Texas up to the Dakotas and westward is pretty much where we were focused in the markets that we worked in. So, did quite a bit of stuff in Texas. I mean, especially at that time, when I got into that, it was 2004. And so shit was just hot. And so all these people were selling their assets in California, making the run to Texas. And so we did a lot of business in Texas. San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Houston markets were just super hot commodities. So,
Yeah, well, still a common theme today. They're still running.
yeah,
But and we're gonna get into it here in a little bit. Kind of how Nick's built his self storage brand and what opportunity it's lent to him. But you mentioned something. You're like, yo, I don't want my money, my income to be relied on someone else actually making a decision. Like, was there like a hard situation that happened that you're like, yo, that's it, I'm done. Like, I need to create passive income, or was it a natural progression for you?
I think it was a little of both. I mean, the thing that always got me was that you guys know with these commercial deals, they can take 3, 6 months, just depending on the complexity of it. And I know that there was a deal that I'd been working that was going to be a nice payday. I'm 21 years old and looking at 6 figures at closing. And I was like, hell yeah, this is going to be awesome. And you get 4 months down the line of trying to work this deal and party pulls the plug and you're just like, well, shit, that's it. There's nothing at the end of the rainbow there. And so I was like, man, I gotta start figuring something else out. And so yeah, started looking into different assets that I could get into, with the money that I had as far as buying some passive income. And my uncle at the time was working for one of the major oil companies and they were building a new office space in West Texas and Midland. And he's like, hey man, if you're looking to invest, Midland, Texas is a good market right now. It's going to be for the next, several years. Oil was pushing up over $100 a barrel. And so the place was just booming. So it bought some smaller multifamily properties out that way. And that's kind of how I got started.
Yeah, let's dig into maybe one of your first deals that you ever did.
Yeah.
How you found it, how you financed it, where it's at now. Chances are it's at a spot differently than you would have imagined when you had originally bought it. But yeah, that's typically a hot topic for a lot of listeners is the backstory of your first deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first deal I bought was Midland, Texas, through a friend of mine whose grandpa had quite a few rental properties, single family and some smaller multifamily properties. He had this 8-unit apartment building that was basically vacant, and he was pushing upper 70s, didn't have any plans for it. And so just started talking to him and he was willing to make a deal and sell it to me. And so he carried the paper on the thing. And that made a huge difference. I didn't have to bring anything to the table. I mean, I don't know what the terms were on that, but he carried the whole note for me. I want to say that we bought the place for around $80,000 and planned to put another 100,000 into it. 100,000 turned into 135,000 and finally got that thing done. But, I mean, during that whole process, I was, trying to find contractors. I was doing work on it myself. I think like a lot of people, you start out in the trenches, you're getting your hands dirty, you're putting in that sweat equity and you're making things happen because you know that there's something greater down the line. So I was doing that. I remember during the summer when we were remodeling it, there was some issue with the sewer line. And man, that was a shitty situation. The plumber was like, hey, you can either dig this out and get the pipes exposed, or we can do it and it's going to cost you, a couple $1,000. I was like, well, the hell with that. Got a shovel, started digging, freaking dug 6 feet down. But yeah, that deal. So we ended up restoring that property, took it back to 8 units. at the time, the rent rates in the Midland market were insane. I had buddies, I had just left California, and buddies of mine were living in Santa Monica, paying $1,200 or $1,300 for a 1-bedroom apartment in not a super nice neighborhood. But we were getting the same rent rates in Midland. And so this thing ended up being a cash cow. I mean, we were all into it for, 250 and some change. And it was just spitting out cash left and right. And so saw the value in that. And that was, what turned me on to, hey, multifamily's great. Needed something to kind of give me some extra capital over time. So started flipping some houses as well along with that. But yeah, that was my first deal. Little 8-plex. We ended up selling it a couple years later after I had bought it. And, I think that we had made, I want to say it was like 150, 175,000 profit after all was said and done. So it was a nice little payday for what we had put into it, and for the cash flows we were able to rip off.
Dude, you got the cash flow, and then you got a nice equity pop at the end. Like, that's a win-win. Now, were you living in Midland when you bought this one, or did you manage everything from, I still can't say your town name, somewhere in New Mexico?
No. So I was living in Midland at the time. So I ended up living out there for 2 years, and then I just, I had to get out, man. It was nothing to do. It was barren part of the country. So
no, I mean, that's it's a good learning lesson there. Like, right, like, take the opportunity that's at hand. And we're on the East Coast here. We're in one of the coast areas that is very rich, right? And it's very expensive to operate. But like, we used to see it all the time. Like, people would come from DC and invest in Baltimore, New York, and come and invest in Baltimore because it didn't make sense to invest in their backyard. Like, sometimes you need to find places. Just because you live in California doesn't mean you have to invest there. It might not make financial sense. You might need to seek out a market that your capital can grow properly, but you also need systems in place. So, yeah, man, that's so it was an 8-plex, huh?
Yeah, it was an 8-plex. And I, just back to your point, that was one of the biggest reasons I left California. It was like, okay, I can stay out here and live in the rat race and continue to, be able to afford to pay my rent on a place and just survive. Or I can actually get outside and start taking some of the money that I had and putting it to work and start growing that, and to create a snowball effect that's going to pay dividends greater down the road than me socking it in, 401k or whatever I would have done working for, some type of corporate job.
Plus, we all want to see suit and tie Nick Paul.
Yeah.
you can always move back, man. You start you potentially, and also when you're younger, it makes life a little bit easier. You can be a little bit mobile. Right. You can kind of do what you got to do on that. It's funny because so many folks that lived in California, they start moving to these progressive areas, Nashville, Charlotte, things like that, and they buy these, whatever, big houses, $1 million houses in cash. And people are like, yo, you're 30 years old. How you buying $1 million property in cash? It's like, I bought, a house when I was 25 in California and appreciated it. And that's not always going to be the case. Appreciation's a bonus. It's not, it's not necessarily to rely on, but it's a little bit interesting how it works. But Ian, I mean, you don't own any properties in Pennsylvania or any self-storage facilities in Pennsylvania or Maryland, right? You created your business model based in a market that worked great for that asset class and your guys' skill sets.
Yeah, and that's what you need to recognize. If you want to buy, I guess if you're in the heartland of America, you can't really buy waterfront hotel property, right? Like, and if that's what you want to be in, you need to go seek that out because you might think there's a better financial gain to that. For us, self-storage created market diversity and got us out from where we were, but we also found where people were looking for the type of properties we were trying to buy. So, I mean, on the self-storage front, like, so you buy 1 8-plex, that's house number 1, which, good for you, went right to multifamily. What are the next few deals look like? And like, where did you have your break? Everyone, I know you said you flipped some houses. We all have gone through some of that, but what was your, like, how many houses did you have before you're like, screw this, I need to find a different asset class, I'm going to storage?
Man, it was So I started in multifamily, and then I took some steps backwards, then started really getting into the flipping side of things. Those quick cash pops were what I wanted, and felt that I needed at that point in time. Just kind of younger in my investing journey, so I did that. I flipped houses for about 5 years total, and then just started digging in hard on looking to get into multifamily stuff that was larger scale. I was looking at stuff that was 50 units or up, and kind of ran into a brick wall with, multifamily was hot, was trying to source off market deals. There was some stuff out there, but nothing that really piqued my interest. And then I got turned on to storage. I can't remember how. I think I might have ran across a post on somebody's Facebook page or Bigger Pockets or something at the time, when I was cruising on that side a little bit more than I do now. But yeah, so I started looking into storage, and it was like, oh, hey, this is interesting. And ended up, we were renting a storage unit from one facility here in town, and we're moving our shit out of there into another one that was smaller at another place. And so I just asked the guy, the owner was the one that was meeting people at the property, renting them the units, physically hand signing and writing the leases in. So I was just like, hey, if you ever want to sell this place, let me know. And he's actually, you know what? I would like to go spend more time fishing in Mexico and playing golf. And so that one thing led to another, and was able to put a deal together with him. Probably took 5 months to finally see that thing from just talks to actual contract, and then another 2 months till closing. But yeah, moved into storage and lined up another one right behind that. And rest is just been continuing to grow here in New Mexico over the last several years. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What do because we have a pretty mixed audience here. We have a lot of sophisticated investors, and we have a lot of newbies. When you went, I mean, dude, doing an 8 unit for your deal one is pretty legit. I mean, there's a lot of shit that goes into that. But then you go do a self storage deal. Obviously you had some wherewithal under you. What fears or what if you could tell a new investor, hey man, when you go buy a storage facility, what's the one thing that they should watch out for? Something that tripped you up on that first deal.
yeah, I mean, the biggest thing to me was the guy I bought the place from. I call him Grandpa Mike. My wife calls him that. Super nice guy. But I think a lot of people obviously always feel that their property is this diamond in the rough, and they're going to tell you that until their dying breath, that this thing, we never have troubles there, it's always making money, this is really what it's doing. And so the thing that I learned was to trust but verify. The information, the financial stuff. He didn't have, much for records. The guy was 80 something years old. He didn't give a shit. He'd go pick up cash from people, who were paying their monthly rent on the unit, and roll around with it till the end of the month and go deposit it. So, one of the biggest things for me was that trusting what they're saying, but really verifying, digging in deeper. We got tax returns from him, but he had so much other business dealings and stuff going on. It was kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what the place was making. So yeah, I mean, I think that was probably my biggest takeaway from that deal.
Was that a seller finance deal too, or did you get financing or pay cash for that?
Yeah, no. So we tapped family for bringing in the debt on that deal. Specifically, my parents. My dad had just retired from his occupation, had some money that he wanted to put in and get invested. And so we approached him and was like, hey, we've got an opportunity here, willing to pay you some decent interest on it. You'll come in. We did give him a share of the equity in the deal too. And, had it been any other situation, I'd probably kick myself in the butt for having done that. But when you're just getting into something, you got to make concessions. And so a concession for us was, we're going to pay you a decent interest rate, and we're going to give you some share of the equity in this thing. And it's, panned out really well. So
whatever it takes, and, make a win-win relationship with the, with the capital investor, no matter who the capital investor is. And
right.
One thing related to, I feel like, raising capital and get it, in the self-storage space, it's pretty creative, very creative. I think because it might be harder to get institutional capital behind it. So, just following kind of in Ian's footsteps on the way that he's structured deals. Yeah, he's got some alternative banks that are lending, plus seller financing, plus hard money, plus private lending, plus handshake capital. Like it's a lot of everything. And the rule of thumb that, and I think Ian can attest to this, you probably can too, is you're going to know if it's the right structure just based on supply and demand and how easy or hard it is to get capital, right? If you're going to give somebody whatever, a 20% interest rate and 100% of the equity, yeah, you're going to get capital all day long. The other side, if you're looking to get them what a lot of people want to do, I think I can raise capital like 5-6% as debt and no equity, and I'll do it as like a second mortgage. It's like, stop. You're going to get the wrong people on that. So, like when you said, hey, I did some sort of debt with some sort of equity blend, like that seems to be what's, available. I'm not saying you can't get it for cheaper or more expensive, but I think those are good lessons to learn how to structure those deals and also to know. And I think a lot of like newbies and outsiders, I don't think they think that far in advance. It's like, well, if I could just give a capital investor 8% return, that should be enough. That should be great. And it's like, maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that in commercial as a whole, self-storage specifically, there's tons of options out there. I mean, like you mentioned, Jason, Ian's got a bag of different ways to get deals done up his sleeve. I mean, it's incredible the way that you could structure these things and get deals across the finish line just by the options that you have for sourcing financing and bringing in capital to a deal.
Yeah, it's all about problem solving. That's what all of us do. It's I'm not smarter than anyone else. It's what makes me tick on solving problems. For you, I saw you do your conversation on due diligence, right? Like, obviously, you already said I trust to verify, so I know you're like the due diligence king, and you're going to win deals on due diligence that I'm not going to win, or you're going to make money up there, or you'll be able to navigate a problem better than I can on due diligence, or Jason on his side of things. With lending, he's probably got more tricks up because he gets to see everything from the back end, right? He's probably got more tricks than all of us. So, with that being said, yeah, I mean, it's just, it's all, every like almost asset class and every way to invest in real estate, you should learn all of them because it just gives you another trick in your bag to be able to go out and do a deal. And you couldn't, could you imagine, again, going back to your first deal, 8 units owner financed, you're like, what? Right. And then you're thinking that's the norm, but that's not the norm, dude. Like it's just not. And it's all what you're exposed to and how you want to take it. So you buy storage facility 1. I presume that you probably slow down some of your other stuff. You said you bought facility 2 right away. Were you branding them all as Self-Storage New Mexico, or did you have different names as you started to grow this portfolio?
Yeah. So, I mean, initially we kept, everything with whatever the facility name was when we bought it. There was no initial with those first 2 to try and brand or do anything like that. But then as we got our feet wet and started seeing that, hey, there's an opportunity here specifically in our home state in New Mexico to put a brand together, to really have something that's identifiable that we can grow over the next 3, 5, 7 years and put a nice little portfolio together. We needed to have some type of branding tied to that. And so when we bought deal 3 and 4, that was the point where we started going in and rebranding everything to Self-Storage New Mexico. And, the thought behind it was there's and still is a lot of mom and pop owners in New Mexico and some of the smaller markets, outside of Albuquerque and Las Cruces. Your communities are, 30,000 to 50, 60,000 populations, which for what we're buying or had been buying at the time were good markets to be in. And so if we could go and acquire some scale in each of those markets and put 10, 15, 20 of these things together over time, hey, could be a good cash flowing portfolio, or maybe there's the opportunity to turn and sell it off to a little bit bigger player, make some nice money, take that capital, go and reinvest it in some deals that we truly want to end up in at the end of the day. Some nicer, Class A type stuff. if you will. Class A for New Mexico, and then not necessarily Class A for New York or LA. So
you want a facility where you don't have to sweep the dirt out from under the doors, right? So,
exactly.
But yeah, man, I mean, I think, Jason and I have talked about that. We just did the 80-20 show recently. It's like, all right, at some point you're going to want to go in and trade up to the next asset class and whatever that might be for you, and can you talk a little bit, like, so you rebranded to Self-Storage New Mexico, like, so you made a concerted effort, kind of like our buddy John Farling, to only operate in your home state. Like, have you looked outside the state, or you're like, no, there's too much opportunity here, I don't want to deal with that drama? Like, what was your reasoning behind staying specific to New Mexico?
So, I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with us being able to sell a story, because everything that we've bought up until this point has been direct to owner. And so, we get brokers that, I'm talking with guys that are sending me stuff from time to time. But initially it was like, we need to go after our off-market deals direct to owner. And that afforded us the opportunity to sell them our story. And that story was that you've got a husband and my wife who's very, she's got a lot of character. She's awesome. She's born and raised in New Mexico, bleeds it through and through. And so when you can go and sell that to people and connect with these owners, it puts us a leg up over the guys that are sending them, a mailer from who knows where. There's just not as much connection, and that relationship necessarily won't develop as quickly. So we just saw a lot of results from being able to do that, and continue to do it to this day.
I mean, she was literally Miss New Mexico. It's literally a great story to tell. Like, we are everything New Mexico. By the way, my wife was Miss New Mexico.
Right.
I mean, you guys should put your family on your logo, like Ian's got his own self on his own logo.
I know, man. Don't
Ian
think
even,
I have it.
Ian didn't even put his partner on there. He just,
right.
He just did him.
I didn't do that. That was not me. I had nothing to do with this.
What are you talking
Everyone's like, "Oh, what do you call
about?
the mascot?" And I'm like, "There is no name." And everyone else is like, "No, it's Little Ian." I'm like, "Stop! Just fucking stop."
Yeah. Wait. So some people don't know it's you?
So no, everyone knows it's me, but everyone's like, "Well, what's the name of like you got Geico the Gecko, right?" Like, everyone's like, well, "What's the name of the mascot?" I'm like, I'm not going into it. So, but we'll pull it up here in a second, Serena. Give me a second, I'll find it. But
just to go back to your guy to the conversation, the pod that you guys had put out, what was it, 2 weeks ago, the 80-20 stuff, that really got some wheels churning in my brain about, okay, hey, what are we doing? And so I'm actively talking right now with a broker about selling 2 of our locations because they have been that pain. And it would be nice to step up into something that, maybe is a little bit different market, but that just drops that dead weight. I've spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks, so want to give you guys a shout out for kind of lighting that fire. But yeah, I think that you always got to continually be looking at that to filter out what's being a time suck and might not necessarily be of huge value to your portfolio or your business. So
yeah, it makes sense. Let's scroll through Ian's website while we're here. I guess a lot of folks don't know that. You didn't share that with everybody, Ian?
No, yeah, I'm trying to. I think you can see how red. Shouldn't have a black background today, but you see how red I'm turning. But yeah, it wasn't my idea. It was someone who worked for us. She had a great idea, executed on it, and it was the premise of like Geico the Gecko, or like Nick was just talking about, of like having a story, like selling the story. Like, we operate in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. Like, this looks like someone who could live there. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same story. It makes us personable. Life storage is corporate as fuck, and some people don't care, right? But in the same sense, they're so corporate. You go on their websites, it's like, what is this, a clothing brand or is this an actual brand? So I think Nick really hit it on the head of like selling a story. I would always talk about it, when you deal with for banks, like, what's your story? Oh, we're 2 firemen, started investing in real estate. Banks used to love working with us. It's the same thing here. You're selling a reason why they should come and rent from us, so
we'll remove that for a second, Ian, so we don't embarrass you.
Did I get my color back yet?
So I mean, it's a pretty easy resemblance, unless you go and shave your beard one of these days.
Right.
Nick, what's your thoughts on scaling? How's your team set up currently? Let's talk about that first. Like, what's the total? I know we talked about this, but how many total facilities? And I'm guessing you probably don't have any employees, just vendors.
So I mean, currently we own 8 facilities. We do have, I guess you would say, one employee that basically manages and oversees each different site. So she's got she's wearing a bunch of different hats. And then we've got other vendors that are taking care of maintenance and things like that at each of the different sites, the boots on the ground, if you will, for each of those different markets. So team's pretty small. And then we've got my sister helps with all the marketing side of stuff and things like that that are behind the scenes. So, but yeah, we've got a manager that handles everything for our facilities right now. If we grow, there's definitely going to be a need to expand that team, bring somebody else on. We've got all our calls in-house. She handles all that stuff. She's basically any customer or potential prospective customer interaction, she's handling and dealing with that on a day-to-day and making sure everything's coordinated with the boots on the ground.
And what's your guys' next step for kind of scaling? Are you in a good position and you like where you're at and you're just trying to execute and potentially get your bottom line profits better, or are you actively looking for more facilities and you're looking to grow?
Yeah, we're still actively looking to grow. I mentioned that we thinking about selling off 2 of the assets that we have right now. But there's stuff that I've been chasing. It's just been tougher. I mean, I think as most of us know, with where interest rates are and trying to put deals together on some of these properties, they just don't pencil out, or at least not at numbers that really are appealing to me and to us on our end. So we've been a little bit more cautious. We've got stuff and owners that we're talking with, just trying to take some time. It takes time to get these people to the point of putting the ink to the paper on a purchase agreement. So working those. But yeah, 2022 for me, we had closed and bought around 100,000 square feet. And the rest of that year was, let's figure out the operations. Let's get everything set up, streamlined, all our back end stuff. Let's make sure we have policy and procedure manuals in place so that as we continue to grow, we're not having to create that, on the fly. And so,
yeah, we had some good conversations between events that we spoke at, masterminds of just like the operation, and to go kind of like nuance into storage. Like, I'm very grateful of our relationship when we were talking about bringing everything back in house. My biggest fear was the phone calls, and there is no way to quantify the data. And I think between you and Terry and a few other guys, you guys hit the nail on the head. It works out to about a call a day per storage facility. And I think once you start to aggregate that data and like understand it, it's like, okay, cool. I had 100,000 square feet. I got this many units. That's another 2,000 calls. Average call time's 2 minutes. Fine. I only need one more person, or I'm going to increase hours or hire a part-timer. And I think that's what scale gives you. And I think a lot of people miss out on the scale side of things. I mean, we would all, some people want to have a super small business. Some people want to have a large business, but there's something to be said about having that scale and having the data that comes to you with scale.
right.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's kind of, in your business model, you've gotten into these different markets and you've got scale in those markets, and that affords you the ability to see real-time data on what's happening in those markets, not just a one-off 20,000 square foot facility. You've got some real true data. And I mean, that was kind of our thoughts behind, let's focus on New Mexico. Let's own New Mexico over the next 10 years. Who knows where we end up in 5 or 10 years, but if we can own a good chunk in each of the different markets that we're in that are all in the same state, that gives us a competitive advantage against all the competition in those different markets. Because
real-time pricing.
Exactly.
Yeah, dude, real-time pricing right now, I would say like there's definitely been a retraction in pricing. And it's been verified by a few other large players that have said, yeah, our prices are coming down. I started noticing that a little bit ago with, when we were doing our dynamic pricing. I was adjusting pricing every day. I was like, man, it's like it's retracting. I never really put I was like, man, okay, things are retracting. I was just talking shit to the boys. And someone sent me a Twitter post from someone who's got a lot of square footage. And they're like, yeah, we're definitely down 20% year over year. No doubt in my mind. And it's just interesting data to have that we saw in real time by having more than one facility, having exposure to the market and understanding this. That instantly allowed me to go, I'm looking at deals and I'm like, okay, well, debt's high. And then you guys are putting these pro forma numbers out. I don't think you can achieve those rent numbers, let alone the debt's so out of whack. And you tell brokers this and they're kind of like, yeah, you're right. And they know. And I think it gives you a leverage piece by, again, having that scale and giving you that information. So, but yeah, man, it's I think building it. I think you're doing it right. You've talked about building a brand, building scale, and what that looks like and how it's benefited you. And I hope people realize the benefits of doing that really in any asset class.
Yeah.
Well, any ideas on your thoughts on a big exit? Sale. Try to keep acquiring, and just it's a good cash flow machine.
I've gone back and forth on that. I wish that we would have got into storage a little bit sooner because I might have been a little bit more tempted and over the last 2 years,
of course,
to try and entertain that. We've had some more regional type people that have reached out that have expressed some interest, but that's all been, at a point where I was still like, let's continue growing this thing. 8 facilities isn't enough to really, it'll make us some good money, but it's not like, oh shoot, we could literally just chill for quite a while and figure out the next move. There's no way that selling this stuff off and just not doing anything. So I think, ultimately, I think we need to keep growing and building it up, buying assets that are cash flowing, because at the end of the day, that doesn't hurt us. If we're covering debt and expenses on these things and we're putting money in our pocket, then no harm, no foul. We can keep growing our team and just keep trucking. So,
no doubt.
That's a fact. I do want to hit one more point before we go here. Before we ask the last question, Jay. But what's your experience been, being a part of masterminds and like being able to, because like we really connected, late night at the fires and hanging out and doing some of these other small events. But like, how's like masterminds and being a part of groups like really helped you grow your business?
Yeah. So, when you had sent over the thing to fill out for jumping on this call with you guys, the thing that I put on there, and I'll save all the kids' ears that listen to this thing from all the foul language I use. But to me, it's not so much about what it's about who you know. And so to bring it back to those mastermind groups, if you're surrounding yourself with people who are doing things that you want to do in business, in life, whatever aspect it is, you're only going to see positive results from it. And so masterminds, man, have been just a huge blessing to myself, to my wife. She gives me shit. Oh, you're going to do this or that. You guys just hang out, drink beer, go wake surf, and it's like, yeah, but there's a lot of other stuff that happens during those times as well. And yeah, man, I think they're invaluable. And if you're not willing to put some money on the table and invest in yourself, to see some growth, then you're not going to see much change, or at least not as quickly as you would if you put yourself in those situations.
Yeah. Plus, you never know when you end up on stage with Waka Flocka. Like, it's just you never know, man. I mean, that was it's all a good time, But yeah, like, dude, you're talking about when we were just in Austin at Lake Travis. By the way, it's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, it was wake surfing. It was drinking. It was hanging out with the boys. But we also covered a lot of ground. Like, we covered a lot of ground. A lot of personal stuff gets shared. A lot of business stuff gets shared. And all this stuff on the boat, when you're drinking, having a good time, you're comfortable enough to be like, these guys are here to support me. There is no competition here. We're all working towards the same common goal. So yeah. I enjoy them. Jason runs a really good one for private lenders. And I see his group. Now they're passing deals around, and his group's really good too. So, but
yeah, there's huge value in it. It's nice for me. I'm being from a smaller community. there's not a ton of people here, especially my age, that have the type of mindset that we do. And so,
that's a really good point that you said that too, because real estate investing and entrepreneurship can be a lonely business.
yep.
If unless you have partners or teams or growth and other things, and there's only so many people that you can probably even relate to talk to on the phone on a regular basis. And I know how I feel. Ian probably feels as well, that like most people, like, you're not talking business to, because they just don't get it. And I hate to say it, like, it's not being mean, but it's a different level. So it's hard to do that. So I think going to, groups and things like that, mastermind groups, things like that, I think those are really, really powerful. I think they're powerful.
It's the same reason AA works, right? You're around a community of people that want to do the same thing that you want to do, and that's what it comes down to. And there's a market fit for each group, and you might outgrow a group. You might start, you might join a new group. You might be looking for the group where people are above you. I would always tell people, be challenged by that. Jay, what do you want to do? Should we ask Nick the last question, or should we ask him what he enjoys doing on his free time?
Let's ask him the last question first, and then we'll see what he enjoys doing on his free time.
All right, Nick, we like to ask all of our guests this is, what's one book or podcast that you listen to, or you think everyone should, take a read or listen to, that's either helped you or you want just to share with everyone?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been on a big kick, over for various different reasons, as far as the who you know and not what you know type thing. I've taken over some leadership roles through our Chamber of Commerce and city here locally, and that's been the big thing that I've been trying to preach, is relationships are extremely invaluable. And so the book that I got into last year that kind of helped push some good ideas onto me is Who Not How by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Ben Hardy.
Yep.
And, there was some good takeaways for me in terms of getting things done. A lot of me felt that unless I had my hand on it, it wasn't going to get done, or it wasn't going to get done the right way. And so when you have that type of mindset, you're just setting yourself up for being stuck until you realize, hey, you've got to bring somebody else on or find out who that person is that can help accomplish that thing. So that's one book. If your viewers haven't read it, it's worthwhile to pick up. It's an easy read, either through Audible or just even, hard copy of it. Good book. And so I mean, that'd be the one book that I'd like to share with your audience today.
Yeah, and it's actually a really easy read. It's not that long, if I remember correctly. I knocked it out pretty quick, and it is good. And even if you are in that mindset, it's just always good to be refreshed on it, and talking about it, and gives you different ideas. So now we do have a very special video that was submitted to us, but we did connect. Not only do we connect, but we both actually all three of us enjoy wake surfing. Nick's got a badass boat. He drove it out to Austin, and we all got to enjoy it. But we have this cool video of you just completing your most recent trick, wake surfing.
I gotta give a shout out to my wife for that.
Yeah, she enjoys driving.
We gotta watch it again. Can you hear that volume too, or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me start it over then. Hold on.
All right.
There we go. He rides Goofy Foot.
Yeah. You'll catch me out on the pro circuit next summer.
Let's go.
Between that character and this character, you guys know how to freaking run a personal brand, don't you?
I'm ready to sponsor.
Let's go.
But just so everyone knows, I mean, Nick is he is very tall. And if he can wake surf and I can wake surf, everybody can wake surf, because we are not small boys.
No.
But dude, like, why do you? I mean, you work hard to play hard, right? And you play hard so you can work hard. What is going to the seriously? Like, I want to bring this all full circle so people don't think you're showboating or we're showboating you. Is what is going to the lake, and like, what does that do for you? Like, when you're not working, like, how does that free your mind or whatever it does for you?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm drawn to the water, and so that's just my place to go and chill. I mean, when we're out there, we're having a good time, whether it's just my wife and I, or friends are out there on the boat with us, or we're dragging it to Austin. I mean, it's all about just having that outlet to get out and you know, I don't want to sound weird, but expressing yourself, you know, in some other different form. I love business, and so it gives me an opportunity to kind of express what I'm passionate about that way. But sports was also big for me, and it's a way to kind of stay up on doing something that's a little taxing on the body, but not too bad, and just have a creative outlet. So, you know, the reason we love the boat, and I think I had told Mike Wagner when we were out in Austin, you know, it develops relationships further than what we could in different aspects of what we do on a day-to-day basis. And so, you know, when you get to take people out there that don't have access to that on a regular basis, it's an awesome experience for them, and it just lets us get to know people better and drive better relationships. So.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. You know, we have a boat and some jet skis too, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is awesome!" Next day, you're hanging out and you're having great conversations, and you know, it's good life, and smoke a cigar too, and enjoy it. So, Nick, where's the best place people can find you out there on the internet if they want to connect with you?
My wife's Instagram page.
Librarian Serena.
Yeah, man. You know, I thought about trying to bump up my presence on social media, but she just has it so covered that I can't top it, man. So
right. Yeah, no,
yeah.
She's got her social game on point, man. So, but
either way, Instagram, Storage Investor Nick, Facebook, just Nick Paul. Just you'll be able to see my profile pic. So.
Well, one of these LFG masterminds, we're gonna have to get we'll have to do another boat trip, and maybe I'll get Jason's ass down there because I know I could probably drag him down for wake surfing. So, and Austin was we didn't get to enjoy all of Austin, but from what I could tell, the lake seems to be a-okay in my mind.
So. How far is that drive for you guys?
Man, it was about 9 hours. It was a drive. It was a drive, but we were trying to find somewhere where it was easy for everybody to get into and go and hang out and have a good time. Plus, I've been wanting to go to that lake, so it worked out.
Yeah, what we say next one's Havasu? Where are we going?
Yeah, Havasu for spring break. Let's go.
Wrong time to go. Wrong time to go there.
Dude, you guys are the wrong cold as shit. It's all the snow melt, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a wetsuit. You know, shit.
Yeah, too cold. Too cold. We're past the age of being allowed there. I'm sure we just be dirty old men on the boat. Boat.
That's right.
Who are the guys with the binoculars? Don't worry about them.
They're with us. It's fun. All right, Nick.
Yeah,
appreciate it, dude.
Man. Appreciate you guys. Had a blast.
All right, we'll chat soon. Thanks.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.